All right, welcome everyone to the Cartographer community meeting. This is a space mainly designed to provide quick updates on the status of the project and also open the floor for users and contributors to ask questions. Welcome everyone. Very glad to see here Cora and Scott joining and everyone else. Thank you for joining. All right, let me share my screen real quick here. And again, feel free, it's totally optional, but feel free to add yourself to the attendees list, and so we can catch up later. No new faces today, look like. So what's new in the project since last meeting? I don't know if the team would like to pop up with something there. I was trying to summarize what's in the project since the 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I believe there are some stuff, but meanwhile, what team is working on, I believe most of it has to do with the 0.4 milestone. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Here is the board. As far as I can see it, we are now using the beta GitHub's project, the new version. So there's several stuff here in the works. So just wanted to know if someone else from the team would like to comment something around this.
I'm trying to remember what it was that Emily actually got finished.
Yeah, she was working on a PR. Let me. She sent like 12 commits last week to a PR that I see it as EM's nightmare. What is this one? Honor status resource.
I was just gonna mention she also got, I think, 2 PRs that were related to like more refactoring. I remember reviewing one of them that like had mostly removals, so yeah, just improving code quality.
Well, this one here is a follow-on.
I think this is the other one, right?
Well, this is a follow-on to where she actually did the work to introduce, here we go, I've got it in my head now, introducing a status on each resource. So you all might remember you get a status called resources submitted, and it talks about the resources that got stamped out, but it only talks about the first one to error, and it is possible for there to be multiple and different statuses. So now all of the resources in the status output of a workload also contain their conditions and what caused them to fail, to stamp, or those sorts of things, so that we can surface much more information. That's part of a RFC that I think I wrote, but it's implemented now. I think that was the big change that came in.
Hey, that's interesting. So this is the implementation of an accepted RFC, right?
I'll put it in. I'll put it in the cool. What's new on the.
Cool. Thank you. Awesome. That's great. Right, and yeah, besides that, I saw a lot of activity around RFCs and game design work. It's great.
There is one that's I'm currently building for showing, no, for allowing people to provide services for build time. And if anyone has any experience with providing build time services through the workload, please reach out to me, because I'm looking for use cases to strengthen the RFC. I'm going to try and get in touch with Alex Barbato, who I know definitely has a use case.
Right. Could you drop the link for the proposal?
Yeah. Once I can find
I
it.
pasted in the Zoom chat the request for RFC.
Okay, let's put that in the docs as well.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, a lot of activity there.
Wait, sorry, Rash, what is the exact use case?
Well, that's what I'm looking for, is the use cases. I'm told that, so at the moment we have a build and a runtime env field in the workload. So you can
Okay.
provide environable variables for builds and environment variables for runtime. Now with services, it's only for runtime, and it's, well, I mean, it can be used for whatever you like, but the intention is that the services field, the service service claims, sorry, bad memory, but those are intended for use for runtime. And there are people saying that sometimes they want to reference a secret through as though it was a service, so that they don't embed them in environment variables for build time. This is specifically important for air-gapped environments. I want to get to the bottom of that use case, but if anyone else has others. So the proposal would be that in the workload spec dot build dot, we would add service claims there as well. So we could have build time service claims. So you can, so that the build process can reach out and grab a resource.
Yeah. I was gonna mention, I think James Rawlings he was involved in a call to customer where they were looking for providing like credentials to, like you mentioned, like an internal Artifactory instance that they have, but then they didn't want to like force the developer to provide the credentials to that Artifactory instance. They wanted like to be this like smooth experience where they would essentially just say, hey, there is a service I need to reach. I don't really necessarily care how I get the credentials in there. I just know that it's gonna be available like as a secret in that namespace, which is essentially like this example I put there. But again, I would definitely reach out to James on that, because I think he followed through with the customer.
That was James Rawlings, was it?
Yeah, I think Alex, like you mentioned, he has some context, but James also has, and it's probably a different use case.
Yep. Yeah, cool. That's great. Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, anything else regarding what's new and what the team is working on?
I think Schumann deserves a shout out for something that's not complete, but it's underway, which is the ability. Wait, is that going in our public repo at this point?
No.
No, okay.
That's
I won't shout that out then. My bad.
Hopefully we can, yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right, no problem. Okay, so well, I don't know if this is for discussion, but mainly for you all to be aware, Tanz Meetup panel is happening tomorrow with Cora, who is here and happens to speak Spanish perfectly. So that will be awesome. Again, an opportunity to keep telling our story to an audience that probably doesn't have English as its first language. That's great. Washuma interview or presentation, the podcast, it's happening next week on the Tuesday next week, the Cloud Native FM podcast. So make sure to subscribe and tune in when this goes live. And also there is a probably I already mentioned this. The Continuous Delivery Foundation has a recently created software supply chain special interest group, yet another SIG around supply chain. It has a kind of different shutter to the CNCF supply chain security working group and the OpenSSF supply chain security working group. This one has a more practice-oriented approach. I mean, taking good practices and trying to produce prototypes with different open source projects and how they will look like in at least in a simulated environment. You can read out all the goals here, the charter. Founding members come from different backgrounds and includes myself. I'm there mainly to learn and collaborate as much as I can. And there will be they have these scheduled presentations, getting to know better some of the projects, not only CDF hosted projects like Tecton or some others, but in general projects that work in this space of supply chain, software supply chain. So we are there, scheduled for May 26th. Stephen Cyril will be helping introduce and demo Cartographer. The good thing about this is this is a community with a very narrow focus, and they are already asking questions. I've been
Did we lose them?
Yeah, we did.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did indeed. So I personally don't have a lot of information about the event itself, but talking with Stephen, the idea there is to like have this space where we can talk about like what Cartographer does right now, like how it works, probably give some demo of what we have right now, but then also bring in that session some of the like future ideas that we have, like the blueprint RFC. So talking about some of those like looking forward things that can be interesting for the community that we think like by, for instance, with blueprints, allowing you to bring your own like different kind of descriptors, like with some of those thoughts around making it like easier for you to do your own supply chain, right? Make that, share those thoughts we have with the community. So talk a little bit about right now and also bring forward-looking thoughts there.
So he's contacted me on his phone, says he's lost internet. So I'll let us know if I hear anything more from him.
Yeah, I wanted to share just one thing that just dropped into. Am I showing the right screen? Do you see the Cartographer community notes?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to be doing an enlightening session on Cartographer. This is part of Tanzu TV. Whitney is a great advocate here at VMware. This is a session that is enlightening, is geared towards more beginners. So if you are looking for something that's not a super deep technical dive, if you're looking for something that's going to really just talk about, why would you use Cartographer? Where does it sit in terms of cloud tools? If you are a new developer and are trying to get your footing and think like, okay, how would I build an ecosystem for myself and like really get ready for working in an enterprise, there's going to be a great session for those use cases. And
well,
I guess we should.
I've still got stuff to talk about too, but
Cool. Go for it.
I'm struggling a little here because I'm trying to remember the project that we discovered by accident. Maybe Ciro remembers. There's a project that has examples of deployments of apps. You remember what it's
Had
called?
a great name.
The pictures of all of the Podtato?
Yeah.
Podtato, like Mr.
Potato
Head. Yeah. Podtato is interesting. what I'm curious about with Potato is how we could demonstrate all of those prototypical cloud native apps as a, so did someone paste the link already? Yep, someone has. How we could use all of those, we could demonstrate those components using supply chains. All right, I think it's a great way to describe reference architectures, right? And I'm wondering if there is a way that we can, actually, I know what I should do is I should probably raise an issue and say it'd be great to have community collaboration on that issue. I'm looking for whether there's someone who's more in the realm of getting apps deployed and demonstrating what Cartographer can do, who might be interested in hacking together a first demonstration of a supply chain that will deliver these kinds of apps. So that's a thought. I might try and dive in and create an issue for that. I wanted to bring it up at a community meeting because it's something where it'd be great to get community involvement on.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Do you happen to know what's involved in that demo app? Like, is it like a web application that then like connects to a database, something like that? Do you know?
I haven't actually tried deploying it yet. It's one of my plans is to give it a go. I thought there'd be more than one app type because of the delivery structures. It's got to be somewhat complicated, I think. I'm hoping.
The app comprises a set of microservices and a set of examples demonstrating how to deliver them.
Yeah.
I
So I was going to try one of their single deployments and then, yeah, can we deploy them with a supply chain instead? Start to answer some of the more hairy problems like how do you read back routes and API routing configuration, that sort of thing. And David is still struggling, so he can't even connect via his mobile phone. So I'm guessing unless anyone's got anything else, we can call it there. Thank you, everyone.
I've got nothing.
I do. I do
Sorry,
have
Scott?
one question.
Go for it, Scott.
Which is something I've been working on building a supply chain for, and have been hitting into an issue and wondering if it's just something that's not possible or I'm missing something, which is actually in the delivery. I'm using a CAP app basically to be what is being deployed, but I want after that app has been deployed to run tests against that application, against what was deployed, basically to run a Tecton task after that. And I can't figure out how to trigger it after the deployment because a CAP app, for example, because you need it to be a single resource, you also don't get anything there that would, like, there's no status output that you could set from that deployment from a CAP app that would kind of follow into the next application, into the next step of the supply chain.
Yeah, there is an RFC, isn't there, for this?
I don't think it addresses the question of, well, I don't know if we're thinking about the same RFC.
The one that tries to get the URL?
Oh, I'm thinking of the wrong one.
Yeah, there is, I wish I had better memory. There is work to talk about, to try and lift any information in a declarative way out of complex object structures that have been deployed by a resource. I can't remember what RFC it is. I definitely need to dig in for that and maybe come back to you with that, Scott, unless someone here remembers which one it is. Our concern, of course, is with something like a CAP deploy, is that we don't want a template author to have to write, imperative code to try and dig deep to find information out about what was deployed.
Wait, but I think I think the problem Scott's talking about is like, Cap's gonna deploy the application, but then like the next step, which is probably like a runnable that creates the pipeline runs or test run, like you need something different in the spec so that like it triggers the creation of a new run. And then I think Scott's problem is getting something into that runnable spec that is different. Is that the problem, Scott, or?
Yeah, because within a Tecton task, let's say that was, the next step. It's easy enough to do with like the Kubernetes tools task step. You could pull out from the app based off of owner reference, all of the sub objects and get to that. But how to do when the deployment actually is, when the app is reconciled successfully, basically. It's how to trigger off of that, not necessarily to pass in something new, but like a Cap app doesn't have anything that's unique in its status after it is reconciled successfully, except saying reconcile succeeded. And that becomes a serious challenge then to what's the trigger for the next step of what would be the output of that the next runnable would be waiting on as an input. So I've been trying to think maybe I'll do it with Argo CD's application, because Argo CD's applications do give the resource. Everything that was outputted from that app is in the status as well, similar to like the workload in Cartographer now. So you do get more information there than you do in Cap, but it's still a bit difficult to figure out how you can wait for a resource to be completed instead of just waiting on a specific status field, how you could use like the resource returning its status as a trigger for the next step, even if that output doesn't feed in as an input to the next resource, because there is no definitive output beyond just the status of it.
There's a couple of, sorry.
I was going to say, my first thought is, if you don't mind having extra outputs, you could key on that successful field, output it as a config, and then create Tecton, create some runnable that will just put that string in a meaningless in some field that's not going to affect anything. Maybe just a label, and then that would give you your runs after each update of the status. I'll admit that's not great, but I should imagine that would work to trigger a run when things succeed.
Yeah, the difficulty with that is that a Carvel app is going to move from reconcile succeeded to reconcile every 5 minutes or whatever the reconciliation period is. So you can't even base it off of reconcile succeeded, because they move back to reconciling until they do the diff, see that there is no diff, and then it goes back to reconcile succeeded. Every 5 minutes, you'll get a Tecton run then.
Rash, Sarah, help me, because I would need to investigate to remember where we are at right now. But I think that if you had some task run and there's some string that the runnable is stamping out, that if that string were successful at time X and then was written to unsuccessful and then was written back to successful, the runnable would not create a new Tecton task run. It would say, hey, there's already a Tecton task run that has this successful string in it. Is that correct?
No, because we will change, previous state will be whatever the string changed to, right? So we always run forward. If it's non-changing between steps, we're fine. We don't recreate a task run, but if it changes, it does. I think
Okay.
I think the problem here is that there's a couple of RFCs that we need. The one that looks for health, all right, and uses health to say that to tie inputs to outputs, because the tied input to output is one where the health status has to be healthy, all right, for that output to
Exactly.
be valid, which we have as a proposal, I believe. So the idea
Okay,
is
and
that it would
then
go
when a deployment
unhealthy for a while,
succeeds.
but that's okay because that's not an output until it's healthy again.
Right, and then when it
yeah.
reaches successful, the cap app is reconciled. Only then it would trigger the next tecton step. It would.
It would
go
try
the
to, but
next
it would be
step.
unchanged, right? In the
Right.
situation you're talking about, it would be unchanged. The output would be no different. I mean, I have to check,
Right.
but that's what we need to have happen with the healthy status. When it goes
Okay.
healthy again, it should have that value.
And that would be a step after the resources returning back their status or reporting status would be like the next RFC would to actually use that as a conditional for connecting an input to an output, basically. If I'm understanding what the RFC would do.
Well, the RFC, yeah, is connecting an input to an output when that status has changed. Yes, that's what I understand it to be.
Okay.
Again, a lot of the team's not here, especially the people who were writing or working on those particular things. So I'm not sure
Wait,
of the truth. We'll have to go and look at our RFCs.
But like right now, if like Scott was using a clustered deployment template for the cap controller apps, and then we wanted to like have a run. Sorry, my dogs are really loud.
It would have to be a cluster config. We can't hear your dogs, by the way.
Okay. So what I was thinking was like, wow, if the Scott has a cluster deployment for deploying, and then like he's making use of the like deployment inside the resource in the delivery, in the cluster delivery to do the locking. Maybe what he could promote for the next resource could be something like the status.observe generation, because then that would reflect like changes to the spec of the cap controller app, and it would only be propagated forward if you are in a reconcile succeeded, right?
Yeah,
and because
you know that the locking is not implemented in deliveries, right?
oh, okay, never mind then.
It's suggested, but it's not implemented. Yes.
True,
That's another
true.
RFC we could use. It's a good use
RFC's
case.
already been the validation template was approved as in the original delivery RFC.
Mhm.
So we just need to implement it.
What do you mean by the locking, Raj?
Can someone dig up the RFC?
I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
that was
understand
easy
what that
peasy.
means in general. Yeah.
So the idea was like, because for a delivery, you probably want to do exactly what you're talking about, or like, oh, like one resource is deploying something, but then you want to run the tests after it has finished deploying. We had this idea of in the delivery, you being able to, let's say for this second resource when it's going to run the tests, you reference that deployment in a way that it would only update the runnable if that deployment succeeded, which is like literally what we're talking about here.
Okay. Wait for the deployment to succeed and then trigger the test, basically, as the next
Yeah,
step.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that's basically what I'm trying to do is multi-cluster where the delivery then will run tests and then put a PR to merge it to another branch so that it can move on, basically. Okay.
Yeah, that would fit very well.
Yeah. So this is RFC 13 for folks at home that would like to look it up and read through.
Awesome. I will take a look at that. Thank you for all the information. It's awesome.
Cool. Do you wanna end here then. I don't have anything else. Looking at the doc, that's it. Cool, so I'm calling it here. Thanks everybody. See you next week.